Hi, and welcome to Great Getaways. We have got another fantastic show for you today, and you can probably tell that just by looking out behind me right now. That is the Georgian Bay. We are here in the Bruce Peninsula. I'm with Chris Hughes, the Director of Tourism up here, and Chris is going to be taking us on a lighthouse tour. We always come up here and we always have such a great time when we're with you, Chris. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing today.
I like to think of this as the irony trip, because here we're looking at lighthouses, we're looking at marine heritage, devastation, shipwrecks, stormy weather, and every time Great Getaways comes up, the weather is like this. and we're looking at lighthouses, which symbolize, you know, tragic death, storms, and we do it on such beautiful days. And we're gonna take the tour of most of our marine heritage sites and our lighthouses, and we're gonna do it a little differently this time. We're gonna try some different methods. We're gonna do it by sea kayak, we're gonna do it by tour boat, we're going to do a little hiking, and we're going to do some drive-ups where you just drive up, park, and climb a tower. It's going to be awesome.
We have got a good show coming up, so let's get started. Coming from southern Michigan, we crossed over the Bluewater Bridge, which spans the St. Clair River. Carrying international traffic between Port Huron, Michigan and Sarnia, Ontario, the bridge forms a gateway linking Canada to the United States. From here, Bruce County is only about a 2-hour drive north along Highway 21, paralleling the Lake Huron shoreline. The timeless beauty of this peninsula has transcended a history of violent storms, disasters at sea, and loss of life. Bruce County's shoreline is dotted with lighthouses, large and small, evidence of the importance of lake transportation. As picturesque as they are, their flashing lights serve as a necessary practical function for mariners of the past. The waters of Lake Huron and the Georgian Bay can be treacherous. Many an unfortunate ship didn't weather the storm even with the aid of a lighthouse beacon. Our first stop was at the Clarke Lighthouse. Chris had arranged for us to meet with Bob Courtney, a local historian and former member of the Lighthouse Committee.
It used to be called Pine Point, and then they changed the name to a big settlement come in from Clarke Township near Toronto, and they changed the name to Point Clarke. It was started in 1855 and was finished in 1859. There's 87 feet of stone, and it's 112 feet to the top of the lightning rod.
Wow.
A bunch of men came from Paris, France to do the ironwork, and it's 6 feet at the bottom and 3.5 at the top. It tapers up.
Okay, so the width of the rock itself, then the walls?
Yeah.
Replacing a lantern hung in a pine tree as a warning for mariners, the Clarke Lighthouse was one of the first imperial towers to flash its light. 6 of these majestic towers were built by John Brown on Lake Huron in the Georgian Bay in the 1850s. Built of limestone from nearby Inverhuron, the Clarke Lighthouse stands 90 feet high. The tower is topped by a 12-sided lantern framed in cast iron. The light has been proclaimed a Canadian National Historic Site. Clarke Lighthouse is the only imperial tower located on the mainland, and therefore it is accessible by vehicle. This makes it a must-stop for lighthouse enthusiasts and the casual observer. Found in the heart of a quaint little neighborhood some 13 miles south of the town of Kincardine, it's also the location of a small marina. Although the days of heavy shipping traffic along the shoreline are long past, the lighthouse is now used by recreational boaters and commercial vessels as a reference point by which to travel. The lighthouse is open for tours during the summer. Sturdy shoes are a must for the climb up the 9 flights of stairs, a total of 114 steps, to the light room. The view from the top is spectacular and worth the climb. And climb we did, all 114 steps to the top. When we arrived at the top, the view was spectacular, and our guide Mike reminded us that if you want to make this climb, you should be in fairly good health.
They are steep, and they're not for the faint of heart. As much as you are, your maximum fall might be only 8 or 10 feet, but it's still, you have that feeling in your gut that you are going up a long ways. And it's always in your gut, and it's a good feeling.
Well, especially, you really notice it when you get up here to the top too, because you can see out behind us, and you can see just a vast distance out there. Do you happen to know why this particular lighthouse was put here? Is there a reef out in front of us here somewhere?
The shoals go out here about 4 kilometers, and you can literally go take a boat out here and lose a propeller in a heartbeat if you don't know where you're going. But you go out about 3 kilometers, you can step off your boat onto a rock and stand there.
Wow.
There's huge boulders out there. some of them as high as 20 feet. And it's just
Mike asked us if we'd like to step outside to a better view. He didn't have to ask me twice. It's great being with the keeper of the keys. We all followed Mike out onto the rim of the light, where Mike explained how they kept the water away from the light.
Gargoyles, or what there actually are, is lion's heads, and they used to be solid brass, and over the years they've painted them. But what happens is they act as a rain gutter, so it keeps the water off the building. So when the rain comes down, it actually gets funneled out of the lion's head's mouth and shoots as a stream out away from the tower to protect the tower from the water. So someday it'd be nice to see them refinished in their original glory. When they put them up there, they must have just looked spectacular.
The trip back down was a whole lot easier than that trip up.
This is not the original light right here.
Every good lighthouse has a lightkeeper's home, and here at Point Clarke, it is now a museum operated by the Township of Huron and Kinloss. Inside are pictures of all the past lightkeepers, the original kitchen, and all the artifacts from the time when these legends called this place home. The park surrounding the light offers boating, swimming, restrooms, and benches to enjoy the cool breezes. Our next stop would be the last light we would visit by vehicle until the end of the trip. It is the Kincardine Light, located right in the town of Kincardine. Built into the Kincardine Harbor hillside in 1881 to service a busy fishing and local salt shipping industry, the octagonal wooden tower is the only lighthouse downtown. The Kincardine Lighthouse sits 74 feet tall aloft a two-story keeper's house. Sailors, recreational boaters, and commercial fishermen can see the now electrified working light from 25 miles away. The 8-sided tower rests on a stone foundation. Above the rear entrance door, the year 1880 is inscribed in the cornerstone. The 3 levels of the lighthouse are joined by a steep, straight, almost perpendicular staircase, making a total of 69 steps. Imagine, these were climbed at least twice daily by the past lightkeepers. Barrels of kerosene used to fuel the lamp were hoisted up these stairs by the keepers. In 1922, the lamp became electrically powered, and today, large lenses rotate around a 500-watt ball. The range lights now provide guidance mostly to pleasure craft. The best view of the rear range light is obtained from the marina and launch facility located across the river from the light. Up to this point, our trip had been a captivating trip of history and scenic beauty. Well, we were about to add another element to the list: adventure. As much as I have enjoyed the trip so far, I was especially excited about the next part. We were about to take a trip to Chantry Island. What is so adventuresome about that, you are wondering? Well, we were going to do it by kayak. Tim Thorne from Thorne Crest Outfitters is one of the premier outfitters in southern Ontario and has been a fantastic help to us over the years. This time would be no different. Tim supplied the kayaks for this trip and even brought along a 2-person kayak for Danny and his camera and Tim's assistant Nick. We headed from the mainland at Southampton to travel around Chantry Island. I say around the island because you can't go on the island without a guide approved by the province due to the fact that the island is also a bird sanctuary. We would ride out with a guide later in the trip. I was so lost in wonder of being in a kayak in Lake Huron that I was headed away by myself. I was brought back to reality when I heard Chris calling.
Here's our host. Come on, host!
I caught up and continued our journey. The further from shore we got, the choppier it became, but for Lake Huron, this was really calm. Just too many storms and just broke her right down?
Big storms. Not uncommon in the winter or late fall to have the waves rolling clear over top of the island.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That'd be some wild water then, huh?
Oh my God.
Must have been rough being the keeper out there when you get a storm in like that.
Wow. If you can imagine the whole lifestyle out there, you know, to be this person, very solitude person, that's out there by yourself, very little interaction with other people, and yet on that lookout 24 hours a day.
Chris told me to keep a watchful eye out because there are over 50 known shipwrecks that surround Chantry Island and its Imperial Tower. This is quite a testament to the rocky shoals and deadly storms that make this area one of the most treacherous in the Great Lakes. Looking deceptively harmless, Chantry Island lies just over a mile southwest of the mouth of the Saugeen River at Southampton. It stands guard, however, over a ragged underwater shoals and rocks extending a mile north and a mile south of the island, a deadly trap for unknowing sailors. Well, it was time to head back to the mainland where we would meet guide Gordon Webb. Gordon is a volunteer with the Marine Heritage Society that runs Chantry Island Tour Base and would take us out on the Peerless. Chantry Island Tour Base has been doing this since 2001 and takes out almost 2,000 visitors a year to the island. This is a lot of trips when you consider only 9 people at a time can take the trip. The reason for this is the island is a federal bird sanctuary. As we were heading onto the island, everyone was told to take a stick and hold it over their heads. This was fledgling season for the seabirds and they were very protective of their young. So if you don't want to have a headache, you wisely held up the stick. Even though we had to traverse the island with a stick above our heads, it was very interesting to see all the different types of birds and their young. During the peak season, you will find as many as 55,000 birds. If you'd rather not be here during this time, don't worry, it only happens in the spring and only lasts about 2 weeks. You can find out more details about the migration times, the boat tours, along with the information on all of today's destinations at our website at greatgetaways.tv. So these are some of the things you're going to see, but the main reason that people come out here is to see the lighthouse itself. Can you tell us a little bit about the lighthouse?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was it's a real work of art. It was built between 1855 and it actually opened and the light went on for the first time on April 1st of 1859. And it was fueled by all kinds of different whale, sperm oil and other things until it finally got automated at a later date. And it's all, the automation now is solar power, is what drives it. You'll see the solar panels on the top of it. It's still a navigation light, an aid to navigation and maintained. The light is maintained by the Canadian Coast Guard at this time. They don't have anything to do with the house or the other buildings, but at this time they still look after the light.
Lit for the first time on April 1st, 1859, the same day as its sister Imperial Tower, Point Clarke, the lighthouse stands 86 feet above the water and is 80 feet high from the base to the light center. This is another of the 6 Imperial Towers built by John Brown around the Bruce Peninsula. The light is a coastal light and warns mariners away from the rocky coastline and the island. 115 narrow steps lead to the lamp room. 7 sets of 15 and 1 set of 10. I know, I climbed each and every one of them and it was worth it. Take a look at the view. The tower was painted white with a bright red roof, lantern and trim. The lantern houses a second order Fresnel lens. The actual lens was removed many years ago. Today, the lightkeeper's home has been restored with the rubble cleared from the basement, stone walls rebuilt and a roof installed. If you would like to learn more about the years and history of the lights, take a minute and stop in at the Bruce County Museum. Located in Southampton, the state-of-the-art museum features information about the Bruce Coast lighthouses and lightkeepers, shipbuilding and shipwrecks, great storms, and storm signals. We would end our day at the tip of the Bruce Peninsula with a great meal and a beautiful sunset over Lake Huron and the quaint little tourist town of Tobermory. We would eat at where else? The Grand View restaurant for a grand view of an incredible sunset over Lake Huron. We spent the evening drinking a local brew and watching the sun sink over the horizon. In the morning, we would start our journey right here in Tobermory for another great adventure on the Georgian Bay. We started our morning with breakfast at the tip of the peninsula as we watched one of the most fascinating ferry boats arrive, the Chi-Cheemaun. In the language of the original people, it means big canoe, and big it was. It saves a lot of time if you're heading over to Manitoulin Island or heading around Lake Huron. It's a great experience. As we finished our breakfast, we enjoyed watching as the mouth of the big canoe opened up as if to swallow its prey. Soon filled with vehicles of all kinds, it was on its way. The Chi-Cheemaun was soon out of sight and it was time to start today's adventures. Chris wanted to give us a bird's eye view of where we were going, so we went to the Bruce Peninsula National Park. When we arrived, we climbed a 65-foot tower to a view of the Bruce. The park is a 100-square-mile area that protects a rugged limestone landscape and one of the largest remaining tracts of forest in southern Ontario. The National Park's main attraction is a spectacular 18-mile ribbon of the Niagara Escarpment Cliff, which runs along the deepest part of the Georgian Bay. The famous Bruce Trail follows much of this shore and offers countless lookouts as well as close encounters with sea caves and car-sized boulders. On the cliffs is a fragile community of plants. Clinging here are remarkable white cedar trees. In these harsh conditions, they grow slowly but continuously and are the oldest living things in eastern North America. Some are over 1,000 years old. Take a few minutes and head into the Visitor Center where you can chill out on the high-definition theater for a virtual adventure to the best spots in the park. Experience the exhibit gallery with everything from full-size lighthouse, flower pot and cliffs, to black bear, rattlesnake, and shipwreck exhibits. Or drop in on a special demo by the park naturalists. There's a free lighthouse guide available from the number on your screen or at our website at greatgetaways.tv. Okay, that was fun, but now it was time for another adventure. A Georgian Bay kayaking trip. This time our destination would be the Big Tub Lighthouse. This light is accessible from land, but not with as much excitement. We started in Tobermory Harbor with our friends from Thorncrest Outfitters, along with National Park Ranger Ethan Maleg, and of course our good buddy and super guide, Chris Hughes. We're standing at the dock right now. We're getting ready to go out and do a little bit of kayaking, look at some of the shipwrecks and some of the lighthouses in the area. I'm actually standing here next to me is Tim Thorne of Thorncrest Outfitters. And Tim, you're going to be taking us out kayaking. Now this is something that anybody can actually come up here and do?
Pretty much. With a certain degree of expertise, they can paddle out in Georgian Bay or many of the inland lakes that we also have here around the Tobermory area.
Well, how many different places do you take people out to then?
Well, most people do like to paddle here in Little Tub Harbor and view some of the shipwrecks that are within the harbor.
So we're going to go ahead and get these kayaks in. We've got a beautiful day here. I mean, the water is like glass, and you were telling me this is a little bit odd maybe for this area. So, well, we're going to go on out. We'll get out of the harbor here and get out into the big water a little bit, and we'll see if it stays that way. Hopefully it will. We'll get around,
great,
look at these lighthouses, and enjoy this beautiful day we've got. What do you say we get going?
Let's go.
Great. Let's do it. The sea kayaks that Tim provided were an event in themselves. They were made for the big water and nasty weather. Fortunately, our weather today was perfect. We paddled out of the harbor, and just as we started into the Georgian Bay, we came across our first set of shipwrecks. They are located in the Phantom 5 National Marine Park. Canada's first National Marine Park protects 22 islands at the mouth of the Georgian Bay and a main ecosystem that extends from the surface water down 200 meters. The remains of 22 known sail and steam vessels from the mid-1900s to the early 20th century lie within the park boundaries and may be viewed by diving or from one of the glass-bottom boat tours operating out of Tobermory. Our trip to the lighthouse took us over the top of shipwrecks dating back 200 and 300 years. The water was so clear it made it seem as if I could reach down and touch them. In reality, the water was over 40 feet deep. It was an unbelievable trip paddling to the Big Tub Lighthouse. The day could not have been nicer, just a soft breeze and blue skies making for a perfect trip to be able to observe all the history that we would pass over. We had arrived at the light, and as we approached, Ethan Maleg told us more about the light and the harbor.
Yeah, we got a replica of this in the visitor center, Tom. This is the Big Tub Lighthouse, and it marks the entrance into Big Tub Harbor, which is right here. And it's a really great spot because it was a safe, a deep, safe harbor where boats could pull into, and there's actually mooring rings right here on the rock. So it was a good, safe place to stop if you're traveling around this area.
Now, is this something that you can actually get into the lighthouse? This isn't, is it?
The lighthouse isn't normally open. Only on a special occasion, maybe it's open. But you can walk right up to it, and you know, you've got great picnic benches. It's a good area for snorkeling or swimming, or a lot of divers will come here too. So
okay, this is the one you mentioned. You can also get to by road, then.
That's right. You can drive to it. So of course we're getting a much better perspective by paddling up to it. So
this is gorgeous. Now, is it a working lighthouse?
It is a working lighthouse. Yes, it's automated, and it does flash. You'll see it in the evenings. Yep. to mark the entrance of the harbor for people coming in. A lot of people that are out fishing will use it now as to guide their way back in. So.
Originally constructed in 1885 for the cost of, now listen to this, $675, the Big Tub Lighthouse played an important role in guiding ships into the harbor from the sometimes treacherous waters of Lake Huron in the Georgian Bay. The original structure was later replaced by a 6-sided 43-foot wooden lighthouse that is seen today. The wooden tower stands on a rocky ledge exposed to the fury of Lake Huron and the Georgian Bay. The white tower is trimmed in red with a red roof and lantern and is surrounded by dark green bushes and cedar trees. The lantern protects a modern optic. The picturesque light is reached by a boardwalk from the end of Front Street in Tobermory. The former keeper's dwelling is now a private home located inside Big Tub Harbor and is best viewed from one of the glass-bottom tour boats. In 1985, the lighthouse became more accessible to the walking public and to those wheelchair-bound when a pathway and a viewing area were cleared. An interpretive sign was erected to explain the area's marine history to visitors. The work was the project of the Friends of the Phantom 5. Tobermory's light still guides boats through the powerful currents, frequent fogs, and numerous shoals to the safety of Big Tub Harbor. The number of shipwrecks offshore testifies to the dangers of these waters. These waters have become a mecca for scuba divers all over the world.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about this particular wreck is it actually sticks right out of the water. You're coming up to these things, there's this one here, there's one just sitting over here. This one's out of the water, that one's about a foot underneath. It's just amazing. You go over the top of them and really get a feel for it. Makes you wonder what it was like and what kind of storms it took to actually sink the ship like this. And they've been here for an awfully long time. I don't know what the dates are on them, but they're well over 100 years old. So.
As we moved deeper into the harbor, it was littered with shipwrecks that had ironically made it to the safety of the harbor, but the damage they sustained from the beatings they took to get there were more than the schooners could handle. Now they were just skeletons above and below the water.
This is one of the best preserved wrecks in the park. It's called the Sweepstakes, and it was a two-masted sailing ship. I think it's about 120 feet long, and it's been here for a little more than 100 years. And it's quite well preserved. The hull's intact, and you guys are going to come up right on top. The railing around the bow section is very close to the surface here. You're just right on top of it now, so you get a real sense of the enormity of the boat.
As we were leaving the harbor and heading back into the Georgian Bay, we had the good fortune of watching the Chi-Cheemaun departing for the Manitoulin Island. Chris and I would now head for the Cabot Head Lighthouse. The grounds, dwelling, and replica tower are open to the public. The station is located at the end of Dyer Bay Road off of Highway 6 on the Bruce Peninsula. The last 5 miles is decent gravel road along the shore of the Georgian Bay. Cabot Head Lighthouse, built later than most of the others in Ontario's natural retreat, is a wooden dwelling with an attached 49-foot square wood tower rising from one corner. Its original light, operational in 1896, could be seen for 16 miles from its perch about 80 feet above water level. The area was named in honor of explorer John Cabot. The original wood frame keeper's dwelling has been restored and turned into a timber and maritime museum. It is furnished with many antiques and period furniture. As part of their Lighthouse Assistant Program, the museum recruits volunteers who take turns in living at the lighthouse for 1 week from Victoria Day to Thanksgiving weekend. There's usually a waiting list. Volunteers give tours and perform minor maintenance. Our last stop on the Lighthouse tour was the Lion's Head Lighthouse. Set beneath the majestic Niagara escarpment, this little lighthouse had endured more hardships than the mariners it guided.
One of the stops you want to make when you come up here on the Lighthouse tour is here at the Lion's Head Lighthouse.
And you not only stop here because of the lighthouse, but because of the beautiful view you have out here behind it. Now remember, when you come here, you come into the town of Lions Head, look for the marina. That's the easiest way to find it. It's right down here. The marina's right out behind us here, and that makes it really easy to find. Great view though. Make this one of your stops. A November storm in 1913 pushed the lighthouse onto the beach south of the harbor. It was recovered, repaired, and restored to its original location. Fire caused more damage to the lighthouse in 1933, and it was again repaired. The Canadian Coast Guard returned to remove the flashing red light and replace it with a student-built replica, installing it in place where the original lighthouse had once so proudly stood.